Another reason why I left religion, Christianity, fundamentalism, and the church is because the church endorses no public accountability. Now, before people start yelling about it's not every church, this isn't about every church. We're not trying to stereotype churches or religious people. This is based on a lot of education, reading, and talking with hundreds of thousands of people. And my experiences in 7 churches, 4 denominations of Christianity. There is little to no public accountability in church or outside. Very rarely do churches do what they preach. If you've ever been in a church, you notice that the dynamics is extremely sexist and traditional. And I've made videos in the past about these characteristics. So why isn't there a consistent type of accountability? Well, if you believe in God, accountability is biblical. Nobody is perfect. They claim that there's spiritual warfare. Leaders tend to be hypocrites or hide their sin. There is a flippant and flagrant omission of convenient sins. Congregations fail to model what they believe and preach. Most of these behaviors deal with pride. People don't want to take accountability because then they have to be accountable. And I don't want to put it on one specific gender, but because there seems to be a monopoly on male authority in religion, there seems to be more abuse when it comes to lack of integrity and accountability on the men's side. I'm not saying that there is no accountability on the women's side because, everybody is a human being. We're not perfect. And the problem is when institutions try to give the appearance of perfection, where people wear masks. I made a video about hypocrisy earlier. When an institution is set up to suppress, to impress, and to hide the realities of beliefs, doctrine, and treatment of people, you have yourself a very abusive dynamic. If every time Christians stop to condemn someone for being homosexual or a woman being pregnant, and at the same time acknowledge that people are born a certain way, or that it took a man without integrity to impregnate a woman and then abandon her, that would be accountability. But when women seem to be the scapegoat for every problem in our society, that people aren't godly enough, we have a dynamic that purposely teaches people to internalize their own shame. How many survivors of abuse or misconduct internalizes their shame and blames themselves? We're not responsible for other people's behavior. We're responsible for our behavior and any child under the age of 18 that we are legally responsible for. Well, we are not responsible for anything an adult does. The problem is there seems to be a consistency that men in positions of leadership only take what I call the appearance of accountability in order for people to get over the issue. We're going to talk in a later video about why religious people forgive too quickly. Without an insincere apology, a hollow accountability, male leaders wouldn't be able to get away with most of the crap they get away with. If you Google and bring up YouTube, type in pastor admitting a problem, and then find out how much later he got his position back or started a new ministry or a new church away from the scandal. On average, pastors who take accountability, which really isn't accountability, because if you take accountability, you would resign and cease being a person with a platform. And when people do something wrong and they have genuine remorse, they don't act the way these people act. The last thing you want to do is be a leader when you've crossed a line you can never uncross. There isn't consistency of accountability. There's consistency of shaming, guilting, covering up, and squelching, and intimidation. There have been pastors that intimidated women who dared to report abuse and took their kids and left. May or may not have left the church, but they left their abusive partner. There are videos on YouTube showing pastors calling out women as ungodly or a curse because they choose their children over a piece of crap they married. When a church doesn't fervently condemn immoral behavior and gross misconduct as they do female sins or non-heterosexual sins, there wouldn't be an inconsistency in accountability. In my opinion, really the only accountability that exists in church is how much do I have to cry in order for people to get over the issue so I can be reinstated. And I'm not saying every pastor who chooses accountability and admits wrongdoing is using it as a bait and switch. But I would say the majority of pastors who are caught doing immoral, illegal, illicit behavior use accountability as a bait and switch. If you cry enough, if you show enough fake remorse, your congregation will let you come back and start preaching in 6 weeks. Or sooner, if you're even put on suspension. Nobody comforts the person who was misused. Sometimes a crime was committed, but they always say it's a sin. And it's not just pastors. Any position of leadership, whether junior or senior leadership, is a ripe garden for abuse. When your symbol of your religion, when you read it, the Bible says that women are to be silent and in subjection, there is no equality. If men won't do women's jobs in a church, you're not equal. You're kidding yourself. There should not be